Hello there you guys, welcome to one of my videos. We have been handed a boost in our bid to sign Jules Kounde from Sevilla. The Sun are saying Sevilla have lowered their asking price for Jules Kounde to £50 million. Sevilla were originally demanding 70 million plus add-ons. Jules Kounde's teammate Diego Carlos has said that Jules Kounde is ready to play for a big club. Diego Carlos spoke highly about Kounde. There was narratives coming out earlier on this season saying that we was unwilling to meet Jules Kounde's £68 million release clause, but it said we was prepared to pay around 61 million. Larazion said earlier on this season we was actually considered the favourites to sign him. Jules Kounde's performances for Sevilla have been outstanding this season. He's been at Sevilla almost 2 years. He's got a contract with them until 2024. Sevilla paid £22 million for him from Bordeaux in the summer of 2019. He's only young, he's 22 years of age, so he has got a lot of development in him. I think he'd go very, very well alongside Harry Maguire in our back line. But yeah, from my perception, I think £50 million is a reasonable fee. So they reduced their asking price by £20 million. Now, I think Man United need to sign Erling Haaland in the summer, because Erling Haaland is a very, very good player, and if he came to Man United, he would assure us goals. And he's still young, he's got a lot of development in him, and plus Ole Gunnar Solskjaer knows the player well, so it would be good to see Solskjaer reunite with Erling Haaland. Now, recent narratives have said that Erling Haaland is our centre-forward priority for the summer. Apparently, Erling Haaland is demanding wages of £350,000 from his next club. Borussia Dortmund recently gave us an update on his future. Borussia Dortmund's sporting director, Michael Zorg, says Dortmund are prioritising finishing in the top 4 in order to keep Erling Haaland. We're actually seeing him as a possible replacement for Anthony Martial, because there's a lot of United fans that are saying we should sell Anthony Martial. But there's been a lot of clubs in for him. Earlier on this season, Solskjaer did say that he's following Erling Haaland's progress. And he said he's keeping in touch with Erling Haaland. Back in December 2019, Solskjaer and Woodward went to Norway to meet up with Erling Haaland to negotiate a possible move to Man United. Minio Raiola, his agent, said earlier on this season that there's only around 6 clubs in England that can afford him. Dortmund are demanding in the excess of £100 million. He does have a release clause, but that doesn't become active until next year. But since his arrival at Dortmund, he has been a revelation. You know, Dortmund paid just £17 million for him. He's got a contract with Dortmund until 2024. And he's been at Dortmund around 15 months. Now, Paul Pogba and Edison Cavani have returned to Man United training. So that's very good news from a Man United perspective. Paul Pogba has been out with a thigh injury. The last game Paul Pogba played was the 3-3 draw with Everton. And he certainly has been a big miss because we have lacked creativity in that midfield without him, and we've been far too defensive. Earlier on this season, Pogba had an ankle injury and he was out for the vast majority of last season with an ankle injury. We was getting the best out of Pogba before he sustained the thigh injury. Paul Pogba has had a long-running transfer saga. He's been linked with a move to PSG. He's been relentlessly linked with a move to Real Madrid. And there's been narratives of him possibly going back to Juventus. Paul Pogba did endure 4 good years with Juventus before he rejoined Manchester United. Now, there was narratives coming out earlier on this season saying that Pogba is open to staying at Man United after making a transfer U-turn and he's willing to discuss a new contract. Earlier on this season, Solskjaer suggested Pogba could sign a new contract and he said he's happy at the club. Pogba's under contract on Man United till June 2022 because earlier on this season we triggered that 1-year extension on his contract. As it stands at the moment, he's our most expensive signing, Pogba, because we paid £89 million for him. Mino Raiola, as you all know, is desperate to get Pogba out of the club. He did say though earlier on this season he's got no intentions of destabilising his client's season at Man United, and he did make an admission saying that he's working quietly on Paul Pogba's transfer to avoid offence. Because Mino Raiola doesn't have a good relationship with Man United and he has been criticised a lot. He made an announcement back in December regarding Pogba, and Solskjaer was furious with Mino Raiola's announcement because it was just before the game against Leipzig in the Champions League. So yeah, looks like Paul Pogba's going to be playing against AC Milan in the Europa League round of 16 second leg. And Edinson Cavani, he's been out with injury and he's been a big miss because he's made a fantastic impact since he's come to Man United. You know, his hold-up play has been good, he's scored goals, he can create chances well, and his movement in and out of the box is good. We got Cavani on a free transfer last summer. He signed a 1-year contract with Man United with an option of a 2nd year. But it's good that he's back in training. Now, Solskjaer recently said that Cavani is closer to joining Boca Juniors than staying at Man United. But prior to that, he said Edinson Cavani's future has not been decided. His father came out not so long ago and said that Cavani is unhappy at the club. He doesn't feel comfortable in England and he said he wants to leave. Reports in Argentina said that Cavani wants to leave Man United after just 1 season at the club. And apparently he wants to join Boca Juniors on a 3-year contract. And he's willing to take a pay cut and he's rejected the contract extension. But earlier on this season, there was narratives coming out, even from Sky Sports, which is a reliable source, saying that Cavani wants to stay at Man United beyond this season, and all he said is set for contract extension talks. But yeah, Solskjaer did say after our 1-0 win against West Ham in the league recently that 5 players could return for the game against AC Milan. You know, maybe Donny van de Beek could return. You know, Van de Beek's been out with a muscular injury. I give you the news on Donny van de Beek earlier on today. Donny van de Beek wants showdown talks with Ed Woodward over his future. Donny van de Beek wants to quit Manchester United after one season due to lack of game time. Most of Donny van de Beek's appearances when he's played have come from the bench. He's only started 2 games in the league this season. But I think he's missed our last 7 games, is it, with this muscular injury. Solskjaer made an admission regarding Van de Beek earlier on this season, saying that Donny van de Beek's unhappy at the club due to his lack of game time, but he promised him more game time at Man United. And ESPN said back in January that we rejected several loan offers for Donny van de Beek. You know, we was reluctant to let him go, but Ronald de Boer urged Van de Beek to leave the club. But I said he deserves more chances at Man United because he is a good player and he's done well in the games he has been involved in. You know, we got Van de Beek in a deal worth £40 million. We paid £35 million up front and there was £5 million in add-ons. He's under contract with Man United until 2025. And he's versatile because he can play in 3 different roles. He can play as a box-to-box midfielder. That was his predominant position at Ajax. He can play as a number 10 and he can also play out wide. Anthony Martial, he'll probably be back for the game against Milan. Martial's obviously been out with a hip injury. He sustained it in the first leg against AC Milan, and De Gea's obviously now back. He has been self-isolating. Hasn't been in goal in recent games because De Gea was out due to personal reasons. Phil Jones is still injured. He's been injured over the year, and obviously Juan Mata is still out with injury. Now, earlier on today, I give you the news on Nikola Milenkovic from Fiorentina. Now, Gazzetta dello Sport have said that Man United are the clear favourites to sign Nikola Milenkovic from Fiorentina. He says we have opened up transfer talks with Fiorentina over Milenkovic. And he said he's already packing his bags for a move to the Premier League because he has turned down a new contract at Fiorentina. And it mentions that we've been in discussions with his agent since last summer. Liverpool have also expressed an interest. Fiorentina got Milenkovic from Partizan back in 2017. They paid just £5 million. Milenkovic is under contract with Fiorentina until 2022. He can play as a centre-back and a right-back, so would you take him at Manchester United? Like I've said, this year's summer transfer window is the biggest in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's managerial career because we do need signings. I'm expecting us to make around 3 or 4 signings in the summer. I think Solskjaer's actually looking to strengthen up in 4 positions, but the 2 priorities is a new centre-half and a new forward. I think Solskjaer's going to get the backing he deserves in the summer transfer window. Because obviously we've got a director of footballing in John Murtough. He's our first ever director of football, by the way. And I did say we needed a director of football because I said it's one of the structural changes that we need at the club. And John Murtough knows the club inside out because he's been at Man United for 7 or 8 years now. You've got Darren Fletcher, that's the technical director, and he knows the club through thick and thin because he was a Man United player for 2 decades. And obviously you've got Michael Carrick, that's part of the club, and he knows the club through thick and thin. Kieran McKenna's there. So I'm expecting us to give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as much support as he needs. I think Solskjaer's had the transfer summer with John Murtough and Darren Fletcher. He's been discussing our transfer targets and our transfer plans in general for the summer. So yeah, they've been talking about Halland. Also Declan Rice has been mentioned. We're looking at Declan Rice as a possible replacement for Nemanja Matic. I'd certainly take Declan Rice at Manchester United. But Solskjaer is set to have his final say on our transfer incoming deals. But Woodward did a statement, didn't he, not so long ago, and he said the progress by Solskjaer and the players this season is clear. So in that aspect, Woodward is backing Solskjaer. The summer transfer window will be Solskjaer's 5th transfer window as permanent Man United manager. So far he's endured 4 transfer windows at the club. And he's spent almost £300 million. He has made good signings, but as yet he hasn't got the backing he deserves. And like I've mentioned before, the board has been one of the biggest problems at the club for several years, because obviously the managers that we've had since Ferguson haven't got the players they wanted to recommend in, and our recruitment policy's been poor, and we've also overpaid for players. But as you all know, our board have got a soft stance on Ole, with him being a club legend. Woodward's come out several times to show his support for Solskjaer, and he did say towards the end of last year he will back him with a long-term plan centred around summer transfer windows. So what that means in that aspect is that we're focusing on getting in players in summer transfer windows rather than, the winter transfer window. Because if you noticed, we had a disappointing January transfer window. We only saw one arrival, and that was Amad Diallo Traore. But Solskjaer said a few times during the January transfer window that he wasn't expecting many signings. We was focusing a lot more on the outgoings in January rather than the incomings. Like I've said in regards to Solskjaer, I don't think he's the long-term manager for Man United, but I think he does deserve at least another season at the club. I think he's made very good progress in the last year or so, and you can probably say he is our best manager since Ferguson. But there has been a lot of Man United fans demanding Ole out of the club. Obviously, they've got main explanations behind it. But like I've said, Solskjaer needs to win a trophy at Manchester United this year. So I'm saying the exact same thing as what Gary Neville said. If he wins a trophy, that marks progress, doesn't it? Solskjaer's not yet won a trophy as Man United manager, and we haven't won a trophy since 2017. And the FA Cup is a chance of a trophy, and the Europa League is a chance of a trophy. Top 4 is our aim in the Premier League, and I can assure now we are going to finish in the top 4, reflecting on that 1-0 win against West Ham. As you all know, Solskjaer has won a $9 million a year contract. Sources at Old Trafford have said that talks are set to begin any day on the new deal, because later on this month Ole will enter the final year of his 3-year contract. I think he does deserve a new contract, reflecting on the progress he's made. But earlier on this season, it said that Solskjaer's future was in doubt because he admitted that nobody had spoke to him over a new contract. Solskjaer has been Manchester United manager over 2 years. You know, we appointed him in December 2018 to replace Mourinho. In Solskjaer's first 3 months, he was the interim manager. Did very, very well as the interim manager, so the club decided to give him the job permanently back in March 2019, which is 2 years ago. I think Solskjaer's learnt quite a bit as Man United manager, and obviously reflecting now on his being at the club, you know, he's gained some managerial experience. We've enjoyed some very good periods under Ollie where we have seen consistency, and there's actually been some games where he's got the best out of the team and he's improved certain players. But we've also enjoyed some very bad periods under him where you can turn around and say, yeah, he was lucky not to be sacked. We've got to credit Solskjaer, though, in quite a few aspects. We really have. You know, we're second in the Premier League. At one point, he got us top of the Premier League. That's obviously when we was in the title race, but there was a period where we dropped too many points, so that's why we're no longer in the title race. We've got a fantastic away record in the Premier League. We haven't lost away from home in the Premier League for over a year. I also like the way that Solskjaer's promoted the youth. You know, we're in the FA Cup quarters. It's going to be a tough game though against Leicester at the weekend. We're in the Europa League last 16. Got us to the EFL Cup semi-final this season. Lost 2-0 to City. You know, did well last season in his first full season at the club. To be honest with you, I think there's been progress from last season. Last season, you know, we got to 3 semis and we got a 3rd place finish and got qualification for the Champions League. We also went on a 19-game unbeaten run in all competitions last season. We was 14 unbeaten in the Premier League. And we've seen a lot of players leave the club since Ollie got recommended in. I've told you my biggest concern about Ollie is his decision making, because in a lot of his games at Man United he has been tactically naive, especially in a lot of the big games this season, but there's been some games where he has showed tactical flexibility. But you've been hearing a lot of Man United fans during Solskjaer's tenure saying that, you know, he is out of his depth at the football club, despite him knowing, you know, the club very, very well, because we love Solskjaer. He is a club legend. I don't know when Man United are next gonna win the title. I don't think we're gonna win the title for at least the next 2, 3, maybe even 4 years, maybe even 5 years. It all depends on how we recruit. We haven't won the Premier League since 2013, so we haven't won it now for like 8 years. Let's put into the equation, Solskjaer is inheriting players from other managerial eras. You know, there's still some players here from the Jose Mourinho era, but Solskjaer's got rid of quite a few of the players Mourinho brought in. He's still inheriting some players here from the Louis van Gaal era. There's not many players here now from the Louis van Gaal era. There's still Matty here from the Moyes era, and there's 2 here from the Sir Alex Ferguson era, and that's Phil Jones and David De Gea. But there is good players at Manchester United, and there's players that are really, really improving. Like I've mentioned, you know, Dean Henderson, he's done really well in the games he's played in this season. I think Dean Henderson is now reliable enough to become our number 1 goalkeeper because he has got that experience behind him. Luke Shaw, he's been immense this season. I like the way Luke Shaw's got forward. He's got into good positions. He's put good crosses into the box. You know, he's provided width, and defensively he's been superb. And Shaw's had a good career at Man United, apart from the injuries he's had. He's been at the club over 6 years. I've been very impressed with Eric Bailly in the games he's been involved in, because Bailly is a good centre-half. He can intercept the ball. He shows the ability to play out from the back. He's very effective in the air. My only element of concern about Eric Bailly is too injury prone, so in that aspect he is a liability. Solskjaer recently confirmed that we was in talks with Eric Bailly over a new contract. And Wan-Bissaka, he's done well in some games this season where he showed good attacking intent. He's got into good positions, and defensively he's been good. But he's also enjoyed some poor games. Paul Pogba, was getting the best out of him before he got this thigh injury, but now Paul Pogba's back. We're hoping he can replicate what he did before he got the thigh injury. Want to get the best out of him. Fred, aspects of his game have improved, but he's also enjoyed some poor games. But when Fred plays well, he can show good attacking intent. He can get into good positions. He can defend well as well. Fred's been at the club now a few years. Scott McTominay, he's also a decent player, but he's not at that level as we want him to be as yet. McTominay has still got a lot of development in him. Donny van der Beek's a good player when he plays, but he seldom plays. Bruno Fernandes, he's made the difference since he's come to Manchester United, because he's our best player and he's the best signing we've made since Ferguson. In most of Bruno Fernandes' games, he's been very, very consistent. But there's been a few games where he has looked off the pace, and I think at some point, Bruno Fernandes needs a rest, because we have overplayed him. Said not so long ago he was refusing to sign a new contract until he has assurances over the club's transfer plans. But Fernandes, don't forget, said on his 12-month anniversary that he's planning on spending many years at Man United. He has won Player of the Month quite a few times, reflecting on his good performances. Greenwood, I've been very, very impressed with him since he broke into the first team squad. Cavani's made an impact since he's come in. Rashford's a very good player, but he can endure his bad periods. I just think we need to keep Marcus Rashford out wide on the left, because that's where he's more effective. And like I said, in regards to Amad Traore, he looks a good asset for the first team. Amad Traore scored his first goal for the club in our 1-1 draw with AC Milan. So yeah. So anyway, guys, that's everything to update with today. Drop your comments, likes below on this channel. If you do, consider subscribe as always, and take care. God bless. See you all again very, very soon.